Your phone call's coming up here in a few minutes with Peter Schiff, acclaimed economic researcher, writer, and of course he also manages a multi-billion-dollar fund. Mr. Schiff, specifically Barack Obama, whether he's a nice guy or a bad guy, we know he's appointing more globalists, more of the same people. Timothy Geithner, who engineered much of the economic crises we now see, who lobbied to get rid of the different acts in the 1990s that allowed all of this derivative manipulation to expand, as you know, but for the audience, he is now coming out and saying Obama warns of catastrophe without stimulus, without these, literally here in Austin, Frisbee golf courses. You couldn't make this up. Yacht clubs, political payoffs, buying off churches. I mean, this is just a big political payoff, the biggest pork ever seen. Of course, it's this $900 billion is a distraction compared to the trillions the Federal Reserve has taken. They won't say where it's gone, but I want you to talk about that separately. Barack Obama, what do you think of what he's doing? He lobbied for the original banker bailout, and now he's criticizing the banker bailout. I mean, how hypocritical is that, him claiming he's not involved in the October 3rd banker bailout, but he was actually instrumental in honchoing it through Congress. We have the video clips to prove it of him on the floor of the Senate. And where do you see all this going?
These guys had the guts. I mean, McCain, I was on Kudlow's show yesterday. McCain was on, and, he's talking against the bailout. But, I mean, he made a point that he stopped his campaign to go back to Washington to vote for it. And, and now he's against it. But, first I just want to correct something that you said. I don't manage a fund. I own a brokerage firm, Euro Pacific Capital. We're a brokerage firm. Individual investors, open up accounts with me. They can invest in foreign stocks, domestic stocks if they want. We sell precious metals. But we're just a full-service retail investment firm. I don't manage any money at all.
Got it.
Anyway, so although I am starting, I just actually set up a registered investment advisor. So it is my intention to start managing money, but I haven't managed any to date, except my own. But in any event, what's happening right now, with Obama and government in general, is they are using this economic crisis as a means to get a big government agenda passed, and this is playing right into their hands. It's music to their ears. Politicians love a crisis, especially when they can say the only solution is more government, and unfortunately, the crisis is going to get worse. The more government we get, the bigger the problem, and of course, that is exactly what the government wants. The worse they make the economy, the more justification they have to get even more powerful and even more government. So they can't lose. The politicians can't lose. The worse they make it, the better off they are.
Peter, say that again in your own words. You're really overdriving on the phone. I need you to back off again. I'm sorry to stop you. Flesh that out. Take your time explaining that, because that's key, and explain why this is actually good for them, but not for the rest of us. Go ahead.
Right. Well, if you look at the government as like a parasite or a cancer, and the rest of us, are the host. And what's good for the parasite is not necessarily good for the host. They want to get bigger, and they're going to feed off of us. And the more government they create to solve the problem, the bigger the problem is going to become. And so the worse they make the economy, the more they create the need for government solutions to solve it. And so the government can't lose in this situation unless, of course, we vote them out. But in general, we won't do that. I mean, Roosevelt proved that. He got elected, 4 times, despite the fact that he kept making the situation worse, because he got the voters so fearful that the only thing standing between them and starvation was Roosevelt and the big government. And so the worse they can make the economy and the more dependent we think we are on government, the less likely we are to throw them out. It's like they're the slaves and they're the masters, and they make the slaves think that we're dependent on them. So and this is a very dangerous time to be an American, because they are going to seize a lot of control and a lot of power, and we're going to lose a lot of individual liberties that we may never get back. And our economy is going to continue to move away from a market-based economy to a centrally planned economy, and economic decisions and resources are going to be allocated and invested not based on individual entrepreneurs seeking profits, but politicians seeking votes. And this is not how to have a vibrant, efficient economy where living standards grow. This is the recipe for disaster.
Yeah, this has not been the free market or American way. And that brings me specifically to the fact they blame this on the free market. They say the free market did this, and then Gordon Brown and Barack Obama come out and say we have to merge the free market with government socialism with more regulation when they didn't even follow their own regulations, and when the government paid corporations tax incentives to move offshore. So, I mean, all of this being set up, and now they come in to the rescue for a problem they engineered to begin with.
Yeah, it's always, the free market always takes the blame when you introduce government into the market, and then there's a problem. It's always the capitalism that gets the blame, but it's not capitalism. It's the government mixed in. It's the mixture of socialism and capitalism. See, capitalism doesn't work when government interferes. I mean, there are a lot of natural forces that make capitalism work, but the government comes in and gets in the way of those forces. It circumvents them, and it leads to the excessive risk-taking and the excessive leverage that never would have come into existence, but it were not for government intervention. And of course, they come into the market and they subsidize something and they tax something else. So they interfere with rational decision-making, and they micromanage, and they cause businesses and individuals to do things that absent government regulation they wouldn't have done. And so they blow up all these bubbles, and then the bubbles burst. And then when we have a problem, they say, you see, it's because of capitalism. When if it was really a capitalist economy, we never would have had the bubbles, and so they would never have to burst.
Peter, I specifically want you to speak to Obama, though. I mean, what was it like for you to watch him on television helping ram through the banker takeover bill that gave him all these trillions and anonymity and secrecy, and then months later they're saying we've got to have another bailout now, and he's on TV criticizing the bankers and brokerage firms for giving themselves record bonuses? I mean, how stupid does he think the public is?
And it's like what did they think they were going to do with that money, right? I mean, what did they think they were going to do with it? I mean, they gave them a bunch of money. They didn't think they were going to pay themselves. I mean that's how these guys work. So it's amazing that it's like you're